All right, so welcome class. This is our theory-informed case presentation and infographic. Our chosen theories are systems theory and psychodynamic theory. We are going to conduct a theory-informed assessment, and applying theory to assessment will help us identify what information to look for and how it contributes to a client situation. All right, so first off, we're going to introduce Robert and Patty's case by gathering important information first. Patty and Robert have been married for over 20 years. A welfare check was conducted after an anonymous complaint was put on the family, and during the check, they found the young children, Eddie and Ruth, home alone while the parents were seeking out drugs, which resulted in the kids going to foster care. Robert and Patty had no prior allegations against them, and Patty has a family of history of alcohol use as well as being a witness of her father physically abusing her mother and a victim of verbal abuse by her father. Their son, Eddie, who is 7 years old, clearly shows trauma-related behaviors such as self-harm, and nothing has been reported of their young daughter, Ruth, as of now. And after getting to know the family, we're going to see how a theoretical lens offers a different view of this case. Okay, so what is systems theory? Systems theory focuses on interconnected systems as a whole. So in this case, it's family. Focuses on interpersonal relationships within a system, doesn't just focus solely on the behavior of one person. When there is an imbalance in the system, it disrupts the entire thing. And in order to correct the system, something has to change within the whole system. And when considering Patty and Robert's case for the bullet number 4, their drug use could potentially be the factor causing the imbalance in their family system. And I pulled a quote from Module 8, our interactive model, saying the starting point for systems practice is to avoid focusing on only the individual. Instead, the focus is on how social and personal factors interact. But that being said, we're just going to continue to see how this theory can be applied to Robert and Patty's case. All right, so how does a systems theory apply to Robert and Patty's case? Looking through a systems theory lens, it provides a framework for social workers when approaching a situation that involves multiple interconnected systems. When considering the questions on the slide, we have to consider Patty, Robert, and Eddie's behavior and thoughts and how they each affected one another and contributed to the imbalance of the system. So these were just questions to consider to see how they all like coexist together in their family. Okay. Next, we're going to apply Bowen's family systems theory framework to develop a deeper understanding of this case. I wanted to mention a quote from McKnight that I pulled here of the summary of Bowen's perspective on family. And they say, Bowen, on the other hand, based his theory in the framework of the family as an emotional unit. And our module emphasizes some of the key concepts of Bowen's theory, and we applied it to our case. So there's differentiation of self, which is, I put for this case, Patty neglects how her childhood trauma has impacted her and engages in substance abuse and expresses denial to possibly cope with her trauma. There's triangles, so there's possible tension between the parents, the caregivers, and Eddie and Ruth due to, the parents' behavior and their substance use. And then there was also multi-generational transmission process, which clearly we were told that Patty's childhood trauma and experience has clearly affected how, she parents her children today. We also have emotional cutoff, which is Patty dismisses the severity of her substance alcohol abuse and the impact it has on her children, because she did say that she doesn't think it really affects them. And then the sibling position, usually the oldest sibling does get impacted the most. Clearly, Eddie is, showing self-harming behaviors, but there was no report of concerning behavior of Ruth, as I said before. And therefore, applying Bowen's key concepts to this case has further offered insight on how past experiences have resulted in each family member's thoughts, feelings, and behaviors and have impacted one another as a result. Okay, so next we will dive into the next theory, which is psychodynamic theory. This theory has helped social workers understand and identify thoughts, feelings, emotions, and internal conflicts. And it was developed by Sigmund Freud. He offers a further understanding of the impact emotions has on a person, resulting in being emotionally driven in behavior and thoughts, which leads us to look further into why a person's coping or defense mechanisms are the way they are. And some individuals may not even be aware of why they behave the way they do, which could be from the unconscious processes. And therefore, psychodynamic theory offers insight on how our internal forces, like our thoughts and feelings, collide with like external forces. So in Robert and Patty's case, it's like their family dynamic. When considering this case, Patty could be clearly struggling from her traumatic past, and Patty and Robert could potentially juggling their addiction, but also try to be a parent to their children. Um, Even if Patty exhibits a defense mechanism of denial of the impact she has on her children, so she did show that as well. Okay. All right, so applying a psychodynamic lens, specifically psychoanalytic theory, to this case can help us understand how Patty and Robert's past behaviors have contributed to the situation their family is in today. Patty's childhood experience of abuse and trauma could be the reason for her poor decision making. Patty's substance use could be her coping mechanism, and her honest denial is a defense mechanism to avoid emotions she hasn't faced yet. Then generational trauma is present as Patty's alcohol patterns mimic her father, and Robert and Patty could be experiencing internal conflicts due to battling with substance abuse, as I said before. And then going towards Eddie's self-harming behaviors could be also the emotional stress he is enduring due to parental neglect, and he can't express them into words as well. And this theory helps us look below the surface level as to why these behaviors are present. So that's why psychoanalytic theory helps us understand the bullets I listed below. Um, and so now then we can take a look into how these theories shape our interventions to find the best way to help our clients.
Thank you. Alrighty, from a psychodynamic perspective, the social worker is not just looking at Patty and Eddie's current symptoms, but at the unconscious processes and early experiences driving them. Psychodynamic theories emphasize the inner world, the impact of childhood, and the therapeutic relationship as the main tools for change. The social worker's interventions should focus on helping bring unconscious conflict, defenses, and past experiences into awareness so that they can develop new ways of coping and not just treat the surface behavior. With Patty, a social worker could use psychodynamically informed talk therapy to explore how growing up with an abusive alcoholic father and marrying young to get away shaped her inner world. The social worker could invite her to link those experiences to her current cocaine and alcohol use and see how it affects Eddie and Ruth. The goal is to help her understand her own intrapsychic conflict, wanting to be a good mother but also coping through substances and avoidance. The goal is not to tell her just to stop using. Alrighty, now we're on intervention two. Could you go back to two? Alright, intervention two, working with defenses. Patty's statement that her cocaine use doesn't affect her children is a good example of denial and minimizations as defenses. From a psychodynamic stance, a social worker wouldn't confront this aggressively. Instead, we'd start where she is and use the therapeutic relationship to slowly help her notice these patterns. Pay attention to transference, like if she starts to relate the social worker as a critical authority figure, similar to her father. The therapeutic relationship can then become a space to work through that dynamic. The aim is strengthening the ego, helping her tolerate painful feelings, and reflecting on her behavior. Alrighty, could we do three? Alrighty, understanding Eddie through the psychodynamic lens. By viewing Eddie through the psychodynamic lens, a social worker could see that Eddie's headbanging, skin picking, and withdrawing into a shell are not just bad behavior, but expressions of overwhelming internal anxiety. Using age-appropriate methods like play or drawing could help Eddie symbolically express feelings about being removed from his parents, fear and safety, and possible guilt or loyalty conflicts, helping his foster parents understand that these behaviors are communications of distress. Alrighty, we do topic guides. From a systems theory perspective, a social worker would look at the family as part of multiple interacting systems: family, child welfare, foster care, schools, healthcare, and substance use treatment. Problems aren't viewed as located only in Patty or Eddie, but in the patterns and feedback loops between the people and systems. Circular causality means Eddie's behaviors affect adult responses, which in turn affect his behaviors again, and then so on and so forth. The social worker's intervention should focus on shifting these patterns and improving how different parts of the systems work together. Do the first intervention. The social worker could begin with eco-mapping to visualize the systems around Patty, Robert, and Eddie, as well as formal supports like child welfare, foster care, and treatment programs, and informal supports like extended family and community. Then a social worker could coordinate care across those systems, meeting with CPS, the foster parents, possibly school, and possibly substance use or mental health providers. The aim is to, oh, sorry, could we stay on that for a little bit longer? The aim is to reduce fragmented services and create consistent trauma-informed response. That is very much in line with the systems theory and the emphasis on wholeness and organized unity rather than individual parts. Alrighty, intervention 2. Eddie's self-harm and withdrawing don't occur in isolation. They're part of a feedback loop within the foster home. If the foster parents respond with fear or over control, that may unintentionally increase Eddie's anxiety and desire to withdraw. Social worker could help provide education and support, showing how calm, consistent responses and predictable routines and attuned caregiving can shift the loop towards safety and regulation. Systems theory emphasizes that each of the members' behavior affects everyone, and so changing the foster parent's response has the potential to change the entire pattern. Alrighty. Systems theories also remind us that Patty and Robert's substance use and children's removal are also shaped by larger social and structural systems, such as access to treatment, stigma, economic stress, and how child welfare responds to families with addiction. A social worker could link them to appropriate treatment and parenting resources, but also advocate within agencies for trauma-informed care and culturally responsive care. Improving person-environment fit means not only changing the family or helping the family change, but also helping the systems become more responsive and less punitive. Alrighty.
Okay, so for the evidence and research for psychodynamics and family systems theory, there's extensive research for both of these. The research focuses on families that have experienced trauma, substance abuse, and disrupted attachments. Psychodynamics focuses on unresolved childhood trauma and defense mechanisms, which usually contribute to the adult substance use and parenting challenges. Family systems focuses on intergenerational trauma, emotional reactivity, and family role patterns. Together, these can help uncover the root causes, the family patterns, and emotional processes. These theories can help explain Patty's early experiences that shaped her parenting style and Eddie's distress symptoms. For the connection between the power and privilege and oppression, the theories explain both the emotional and relational patterns, but they do not naturally address the issues to power, privilege, and oppression. The theories are more Western, so they overlook poverty, stigma, child welfare involvement, and limited access to treatment and systematic surveillance that affect many of these families. When the social worker uses the theories, when they look through the social justice lens, the lens helps remind them that it's not only the personal and psychological challenges, but it is also environmental, generational, and structural stressors. When we do use these theories, we do have to use with caution to avoid blaming the individual's struggles rooted in the structural barriers. And that is the end of our presentation, and these are the references that we used.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.